The HOA had me arrested for fishing in my own lake, so I sued them into a $1,200,000 zero-cent sinkhole. They wanted control? I gave them a federal fraud investigation on live stream. They arrested me for fishing in my own lake. Yep, that's me in handcuffs. Treated like a dangerous criminal for holding a fishing rod on my property. Drop a comment where you're watching from because this is the most insane HOA revenge story you'll ever hear. So there I was, 38 years old, retired from back-breaking landscape gigs, finally living the dream on my slice of heaven. 15 acres and a private lake I bought with every dime I didn't spend on fast food and chiropractor bills. First morning on the property, I set up a chair older than my knees, cracked open a tackle box, and cast a line so gently it could have been an apology. Then I heard it, that god-awful hum of doom approaching on 6 wheels of righteous nonsense, a golf cart, speeding like it had a war crime to report. Out stomped Judith Halberd, 62, HOA president, self-appointed patriot of the pond, dressed like a human filing cabinet. "You are stealing from our lake," she barked, pointing like she was conducting an exorcism. I blinked, rod still in hand, fish still not caught. Ma'am, this is my property. I own the lake." That set her off like Mentos and soda. "Fake paperwork. This is HOA waters. I'm calling the police." I hadn't even reeled anything in, and suddenly I was public enemy trout. Cops showed up like I'd threatened to fillet the national anthem. Officer Jameson, who looked like he left his soul back in 1997, asked if I was armed. "Only with optimism," I replied. Judith was still yelling about terrorist fish conspiracies while waving printouts from DuckDuckGo. Officer sighed so deep it felt like an earthquake of regret. He glanced at my empty bucket, my sleeping dog, and my deed, which I laminated out of pettiness, and said, "Ma'am, fishing on your own property isn't a crime. But wasting police time kinda is." I figured that was the end of it, until it happened again. And again, 5 times in 30 days. The charges kept evolving: fish theft, water poisoning, and my favorite, unauthorized emotional manipulation of ducks. So I did what any sane person would do. I started live streaming. "Welcome to Fishing Crimes," I said. "Today's weapon, night crawlers." The internet ate it up. Comments rolled in. "Sue her, name a fish after her." And this hacho's about to get filleted. When someone's obsessed with controlling everything, it's usually because they've lost control of themselves. Why did Judith show up the next day in a hazmat suit with a folder labeled "Top Secret"? Worm bioterrorism. Drop a hooked in the comments if you think this hecho's about to unravel faster than cheap fishing line. Darla once fined a woman for using aggressive daisies in her flower bed. So me using worms to fish? Biological warfare. Apparently, night crawlers are now weapons of mass digestion. It was day 7, and I'd barely had a sip of my lukewarm coffee when the HOA theme song returned. Screeching golf cart, rage in neutral, delusion in overdrive. Darla rolls up like she's about to announce martial law, only this time she's wearing full rubber gloves, lab goggles, and has a folder labeled "Biohazard Alert, Top Secret." She pointed at my bait box like I was harboring radioactive frogs. "He's releasing contaminants into the water table," she shrieked, waving a half-printed Wikipedia article like it was a subpoena. I lifted my bucket of worms and said, "Ma'am, these guys don't even have teeth." Officer McBride showed up again, dragging half a breakfast burrito and a full sense of regret. He squinted at my bait, then at Darla's outfit, then muttered, "I swear if one more HOA member tries to invoke Homeland Security over a bobber, I'm retiring." Darla stomped toward him like a possessed beaker. "These earthworms carry salmonella and E. coli. I demand a hazmat test." McBride leaned in, sighed, and muttered, "Ma'am, they sell these worms at bait shops next to soda and beef jerky." She was undeterred. She threw her gloves into the air like she was solving a murder and screamed, "This man is engaging in underground freshwater terrorism." I swear even the ducks looked confused. I held up a worm and asked the livestream viewers, "Is he radicalized?" Blink twice. Comments poured in: bioterrorist, bass edition, Get this man a Nobel Peace Fish, and this HOA's a sitcom with a criminal budget. The officer warned her, again, about false emergency calls. One more, and it's you getting cuffed, he said. But Darla just pulled out a laminated quote from a Reddit forum and whispered, "This isn't over. I have a degree in online environmental science." McBride muttered something about fishing up a transfer request. Meanwhile, I signed off the stream with, "And that, folks, was Chapter 2 of Trout versus Delusion. The louder someone yells about rules, the less they understand how water, worms, or common sense actually work." So why did Darla scream, "Sonic harassment," after I cast my line the next morning? Comment "whiplash" if you think her next complaint's coming with a Spotify playlist. Imagine a woman in orthopedic Crocs yelling, "That rod is a weapon of disturbance," before breakfast. That's how Tuesday started. I hadn't even buttered my toast before Darla returned, armed with a clipboard, a decibel reader, and a full thermos of self-righteousness. You'd think I was detonating Bath's bombs, not casting a line into a lake with fewer ripples than her personality. She marched across the grass like a general with a grudge. "You're disturbing the frequency of Elmbrook's tranquility," she shouted, like she was defending sacred airwaves. Her decibel reader beeped once. 13 dB. That's quieter than a moth flossing. Officer McBride showed up mid-coffee and didn't even bother hiding his eye roll. "Ma'am," he said, squinting at the screen. "This thing's reading softer than your heartbeat." She snatched it back like it was gospel and hissed, "It's not about volume, it's the sonic ripple effect." That day, she filed 17 separate noise complaints, all signed by her using different pens like that would fool the clerk. She even labeled each one, "Incident of Audio Assault." I streamed the whole thing, narrating like a documentary. Here we observe the HOA queen in her natural habitat, weaponizing frequency charts to combat peace. Comments came pouring in. "Rick's rod is a sonic disruptor confirmed. She's hearing ghosts," and my personal favorite, "Hire Hans Zimmer to score his next cast." But Darla wasn't done. "No, ma'am. On day 14, she came back with a building inspector named Todd. Nice guy, looked like he got dragged into this with the promise of muffins and a coffee coupon." Darla pointed dramatically at my $20.00 folding chair. "That's an unauthorized seated structure," she declared, as if I'd erected a casino. Todd stared at the chair, then at her, then back at the chair. "Ma'am," he said deadpan, "this is a camping chair from Big Lots." "But he sits in it every day," she snapped. "It's functionally permanent." I turned to the camera. "Apparently my butt has squatter's rights." Donations exploded again. One viewer chipped in $100.00 for structural reinforcement. Another simply wrote, "Permit the chair, free the fisherman." Todd backed away slowly, probably wondering if he still had time to become a florist. The people who shout the loudest about community values are often the reason that community needs group therapy and 3 municipal restraining orders. So what's the most absurd thing Darla called a structure next? Comment, "Chair permit if you think it folds and offends." I grilled 2 hot dogs for my golden retriever and Darla called it an encoded terrorist transmission. Somewhere, Mustard wept. 1 minute I'm flipping Franks with tongs from Target, and the next, 7 patrol cars roll up like I'm staging a coup with condiments. You'd think I was hiding nuclear codes in a bun instead of giving Lucky his lunch. Officer McBride was back, looking like he'd just aged a decade. "Ma'am," he said, already exhausted, "we've confirmed the grill isn't military grade." Darla jabbed a finger at the ketchup bottle. "That's not English. That's jihad sauce." It said tomato fusion in cursive. I held it up to the body cam. "Can someone translate this before Homeland Security gets summoned?" The rookie cop snorted. Darla didn't blink. "They're sending messages through condiments. Wake up!" Somewhere in the distance, an eagle probably face-palmed. And just when I thought it couldn't get more absurd, Cindy Dawson, secretary, nervous as a squirrel in a blender, approached from behind the chaos. She slipped me a USB drive so fast it felt like a spy movie, minus the soundtrack and cool sunglasses. Her whisper was shaky. "She's going to fabricate a violation, say the lake is toxic. Then she'll seize it for safety." "That USB? 5 years of fake invoices and embezzlement. I can't keep watching this. I pocketed the drive like it was plutonium. "Why now?" I asked. Her eyes flicked toward Darla, who was currently showing cops a hand-drawn map of potential mustard signal zones, because next week she's bringing a fake environmental inspector. "You won't own your land. You'll be a public risk." Then Cindy vanished like a guilty conscience. After the patrol cars pulled out, I sat by the water with Lucky, grilling a third hot dog because chaos burns calories. I opened my phone's notes app and typed one sentence. "She's planning a takeover, disguised as a tree hug." My chat went wild. "Ketchup coup," one wrote. Another said, "Plot twist, mustard is the mole." Tyrants don't need tanks, just apathy, a clipboard, and enough Karen energy to power a doomsday cult. What's buried on the USB that has Cindy shaking like a squirrel at a pitbull party? Type grill files if you think Darla's been cooking more than complaints. They came for snacks and bylaws. They left with a federal audit and a Karen meltdown. The HOA meeting was supposed to be about seasonal mailbox decoration enforcement, but I hijacked it like a raccoon in a picnic basket. I walked in with a flash drive, a laptop, and a grin only 5 years of patience and a terabyte of receipts could buy. I plugged in my gear, hit Present Slideshow, and said, "Tonight's feature presentation, Where the Hell Did Our Money Go?" Slide 1, Fake Contractor Invoices. Slide 2, Darla's signature on a grant application for flood relief, signed 2 days after she hosted a pool party with that same money. The room, dead silence. The audience? 50 HOA members blinking like raccoons caught under LED porch lights. Right on cue, Darla jumped up like someone lit a fire under her orthopedic cushion. "This is communist manipulation," she screeched, lurching for the power strip like a toddler chasing snacks. Officer McBride, who had started bringing popcorn to meetings at this point, calmly intercepted her like he was redirecting a slow-moving cow. "Ma'am, step away from the projector, or the snacks." She spun on him like a malfunctioning Roomba, red-faced and glitching. And then it happened. 3 agents in blue jackets walked in with the calm swagger of people who knew they had receipts, too. "Darla Jensen," said one, flashing a badge like it was an eviction notice from the gods, "you are under arrest for federal grant fraud, embezzlement, and wire laundering." The room gasped. Darla froze. Then, in true Karen fashion, she tried to declare a mistrial in the HOA meeting. "This is a deep state setup. He's a plant, a communist plant, with PowerPoint," she hollered, flailing as they cuffed her. People stood, phones came out, someone yelled, "Turn the projector back on!" Another shouted, "Finally!" One elderly couple high-fived like it was the Super Bowl. I turned back to the slideshow and clicked to the final slide. Total embezzled. $722,000, 0 cents, and she fined me for my fishing chair. People who weaponize rules always forget that cameras record more than clipboards, and justice scrolls in 4K. Why did Darla grin as they dragged her out? Type smug mugshot if you think this hurricane still has one more spin. The media called it the fish crimes trial. I called it, finally, a use for my court shoes. Darla showed up to federal court wearing a sequin scarf, a Bluetooth headset that wasn't connected to anything, and enough perfume to gas a raccoon. She smiled like this was a PTA meeting with free muffins, not a wire fraud indictment. Her opening defense? It was all compensation for mental strain. She claimed managing a community of ungrateful lawn offenders gave her chronic insomnia, emotional blisters, and an allergy to accountability. Her lawyer, who looked like a bored paralegal on his lunch break, nodded like this was the standard playbook for tax-funded joyriding. But the showstopper came when the surprise witness, her cousin Kenny from the zoning board, took the stand. Kenny, a man who once tried to outlaw bird feeders because he didn't trust sparrows, claimed Darla never touched a cent. Too bad we had screenshots of their texts, plotting to flip Rick's lake for a big payday. Kenny folded faster than a dollar store lawn chair. "She told me it was legal if you use fancy fonts," he mumbled, as the jury side-eyed him into oblivion. Then came my turn. When I got to the part about being labeled bioterrorist for using worms, 2 jurors snorted. When I described her decibel reader and the sonic harassment complaint, 1 actually laughed out loud. But it was Darla's own words that did her in. Mid-cross-examination, she stood up, arms trembling, and yelled, "Fine! I took the money, but I deserved that Bentley!" Silence. You could hear the judge's gavel raise a brow. Her attorney just leaned back and whispered to himself, "Well, there goes my weekend." The difference between guilt and justice is whether you have Wi-Fi in prison or just a fan club on court TV. But here's the kicker. 3 days later, I found a letter in my mailbox with no return address and a fishy smell. Comment fish gift if you think it wasn't tuna. First, they tried to bankrupt me with bylaws. Now they're crowdfunding my statue. That's not a joke. Someone literally started a GoFundMe titled Rick vs. the Fish Witch Memorial, and it hit $10.00 before I could say no unsolicited bronzing. Funny how going viral for HOA terrorism turns you into a small-town legend. 1 minute you're a noise threat with worms, the next you're teaching 3rd graders how to cast a spinnerbait like it's the state curriculum. Darla, meanwhile, was sentenced to pay $1,200,000 in restitution, which is impressive considering her checking account had the emotional range of a vending machine. The lake? Officially renamed Lake Liberty. We turned it into a public park with trails, a kids' fishing program, and, by community vote, a hot dog station. Darla once claimed condiments were weapons of confusion, so naturally, we made the ketchup bottle 10 feet tall. The HOA bylaws got rewritten faster than a teenager's diary after getting caught. No more chair permits, no noise complaints before 9 a.m., no meetings unless snacks are provided. Every dime of HOA spending gets posted online, including one line item that read, "Legal defense, $0, because we tell the truth, now." I didn't write that, but I laminated it. I married Cindy under a string of solar lights next to the lake Darla tried to steal. We served catfish tacos and grilled pineapple, and our cake topper was a miniature folding chair. A year later, our daughter was born. We named her Hope, not just because we needed some after the chaos, but because she weighed exactly 8 pounds, 3 ounces. Same number as the $823.00 K Darla embezzled. Cosmic humor? Maybe, but she's got her mama's eyes and my stubborn streak. When she cried the first time, I swear it sounded like, "That's not regulation lawn height." Then the letter came. No return address. Just, "You won, but I left something for you in the lake." The handwriting was tight, sharp, not Darla's. The envelope smelled like pond water and petty resentment. I stared at it for a long time. Toss it? Frame it? Call the Coast Guard? Because nothing says peaceful community like mystery aquatic threats written in serial killer cursive. Peace isn't found in silence. It's found in justice, laughter, and hot dogs that don't get mistaken for encrypted communications. Wu sent the creepy gift in the lake letter. Type Minomob if you think it's not over. 5 years later, Darla returned, not in a Bentley, not escorted by law enforcement, and thank God not with another binder of bylaws. No, she came with a $10.00 fishing rod from a gas station, a thrift store bucket, and a tan that could only be described as correctional facility copper. I spotted her from my usual spot on the dock, her Crocs squeaking with each uncertain step like they were trying to walk off the pass. She didn't wave, she just cast her line and sat down. 20 feet away, socially distanced by shame and county mandate. We fished in silence for an hour, only the occasional ripple or squirrel fight breaking the awkward truce. Then, in the kind of tone usually reserved for confessions and late-night drive-through orders, she said, "That second letter wasn't from me." I didn't turn. "I know," I said. Handwriting didn't scream Karen cursive. She nodded, then sighed so loud the ducks moved. "It was Tommy, my cousin. He still thinks you ruined my life." I didn't respond, mostly because I was trying not to laugh at the idea that I ruined her life. Like my fishing pole wrote the fake invoices? The real comedy came 20 minutes later when I caught a largemouth bass roughly the size of a toddler in a snowsuit, As I reeled it in, Darla's eyes widened like I'd just pulled Excalibur from the lake. Her rod twitched, her lip twitched, then her thumb twitched right over the 911 button. "That's bait cheating!" she screamed into the phone. "He's using performance-enhanced lures." The dispatcher, by now a personal friend of mine, calmly asked, "Ma'am, is the fish threatening you?" To which Darla replied, "Emotionally, yes." She stayed on the line. Not to report crime, but to narrate it. He smirked when he reeled it in. I saw it. That was a smug cast. The fish looked expensive. I had to put the bass down and back away just to stop myself from laughing hard enough to fall in. Officer McBride pulled up 10 minutes later, rolled down his window and said, "Let me guess. The fish offended her HOA values?" I shrugged. Apparently it had an illegal glitter finish. McBride didn't even get out. He just said, "Ma'am, stop weaponizing seafood," and drove off. As the sun dipped behind the lake, Darla finally stood, looked at me and said, "You ruined me, but you also saved me." I nodded, unsure whether she was making peace or pitching a Hallmark reboot. "The lake's quiet again," she added. I smiled. "It always was." "You just brought a megaphone." She packed up, waved once, and left. Same Crocs, less venom. Maybe prison hadn't changed her, but the lake had. And I'd take that win. And as I sat there, with my old folding chair that once needed a permit, my dog Lucky drooling at the fish and the lake calm as ever, I realized something. This whole war wasn't about worms, noise, or hot dogs. It was about power. And sometimes, the most dangerous person isn't the one with a title. It's the one with nothing to lose and a fishing rod full of receipts. Darla came with fines, threats, and folder tick rage, but she left with humility and maybe a little hope. What started as HOA harassment turned into a full-blown takedown of corruption, community decay, and manufactured fear. I didn't win with lawyers or weapons. I won with logic, laughter, and a refusal to back down from a woman who thought bylaws outranked decency. Here's the truth this story leaves you with. Stand your ground, not with fists, but with facts. Record everything, laugh loudly, and never underestimate how powerful you are when you refuse to be bullied. Because tyranny doesn't start with tanks. It starts with clipboard Karens and unchecked rules. And justice starts with a man who just wanted to fish. So if this story gave you a laugh, a spark of courage, or a reason to check your own HOA bylaws, do 3 things. Drop a comment with your wildest HOA story. Hit like if you believe in fishing rights and barbecue justice. Subscribe so you don't miss the next tale of small-town drama, poetic payback, and the power of not giving up. Because next time, it might be your lawn gnome on trial.